social responsibility. It's something I feel very strongly about, and I had a good memory of when I was here last year for the Karamo Foundation on rule of law, and I thought that it really would be a good opportunity to share my passion about the role of the private sector in the 21st century. I was glad to be able to come along to the end and listen for the last half an hour or so of the CEO roundtable. Some very good questions and a real sense of the practicalities, and that's good because it's important to understand the corporate culture, the sense of what is the best way for corporations here in Nigeria to be good corporate citizens. And what that enabled me to do was to understand this morning in my keynote that I could talk about the international framing, and that it's very timely, because at the international level, Professor John Ruggie is just submitting this week in Geneva his guiding principles, which are guiding for government and guiding for corporations about corporate responsibility. And so we had, I think, a good discussion about how that then is translated in practice in a country like Nigeria. I also spoke about some practical examples of corporations that have benefited, like the Gap benefiting because of problems in its supply chain. But when it began to take its responsibilities seriously, it knew how to deal with this very quickly and did not have a reputation problem. I think it's very good to have those kind of links with what's happening in other countries. I also recommended that Nigeria might think of hosting a regional network meeting of the networks of the Global Compact, the United Nations Global Compact. We did have a discussion about the fact that in some respects the United Nations Global Compact is not the highest rigorous standard. It's a voluntary commitment. But now with the guiding principles, there's an opportunity to align, and there will be a really active discussion in every region. So either there could be a regional meeting of networks of the Global Compact for Africa, or Nigeria could host an international, as, for example, Turkey did recently in Istanbul. I think that it's more difficult in a number of African countries because of earlier experiences. For example, in Liberia, Firestone had negotiated a very unfavourable concessionary agreement, and when President Johnson Sirleaf came into office, she had the tough job of renegotiating, and the Firestone didn't want to do it, but in fact in the end they did, and that was much better for the workers, for the unions, for Liberia itself to get more of the added value of Firestone's involvement. And so I think it's important that the guidelines now at the international level are not just about private sector corporate responsibility. They're also saying there's a duty on states to protect their people from violations by corporations of their human rights, violations by polluting water, by land grabs, by unfair conditions of work, lack of health and safety in the workplace, etc. So that's a duty of states. I think for a number of African countries there will be quite a lot of work to do to make sure that the enabling environment complies with that duty of states, as well as the responsibility of the private sector.